Hi, everyone. It's Jason Neufeld from Elder Needs Law. And as an elder law attorney who does a lot of estate planning and Medicaid planning, one of my main roles really is introducing people to resources that they didn't know they could have access to. Sometimes that's in the form of Medicaid long-term care planning, but other times it's connecting people to other resources in the community that they may not have known existed. And I can't think of a better segue than to introduce the two fine individuals that I have with me today from Memory Training Centers of Florida. That's www.memorytrainingflorida.com. And with me today, we have Kimberly Rocha, who is the marketing director, and Liz Bicknell, the executive director for the facility and the services they provide. And I'm going to let them get into it, but essentially, they are a psychology practice that specializes in memory loss that works exclusively with senior citizens. And we're going to get a little bit more into that. Liz, thank you very much for being here today. Please tell us more about yourself. Tell us more about Memory Training Centers of Florida.
Okay, well, thanks, Jason, for having us here. We're so thrilled to be able to share information and collaborate to support the senior network here in Florida. We are, as you mentioned, a memory training program. And what that means to us is we serve seniors that are all along the spectrum of memory loss, from the very high functioning, living in independent living communities, all the way to those that might live in a memory care unit who need 24-hour support. So what we do is a little different depending upon where they are on that spectrum, but we can provide essentially memory training, meaning that we need to address their memory skills where they have cognitive loss and rebuilding and restoring skills to the capacity that that individual has, addressing mental health concerns, and also developing strategies so that they can remain as independent as possible. So that's really the mission.
And this is something that we're dealing with all the time, especially as an elder law attorney. I work with a very large dementia and Alzheimer's related population. And something that you and I had talked about before, or Kim and I talked about before, super interesting, is that a lot of people don't realize that sometimes dementia is an after effect of their overall emotional mood, right? So they may be in these facilities, and they may be, especially during COVID, I imagine this is happening more. People are feeling more alone than ever. And that results in a cognitive decline that isn't necessarily permanent. So people who we think of as having dementia because they're forgetful, you can actually work with those people to get them out, essentially lifting them out of the fog. Does that make sense? And can you talk more about that?
That's 100% a great way to describe what's happening. So it's not that they are experiencing dementia, it's just that their symptoms are very similar, and they can be very often misdiagnosed with dementia when they have severe anxiety or severe depression, because it is like a fog when you're experiencing that degree of a mental health disturbance. Anxiety in specific will release cortisol into your brain. It's a stress response. And that literally is like living in a fog. So when you can address those symptoms of anxiety or depression and improve their mental health, then yes, their memory can kind of bounce back.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit, you're not doing much by way of in-home care, but you are in all sorts of senior facilities. Can you talk about the different senior facilities where you can provide either one-on-one or group instruction?
So the independent living communities, that is our ideal starting point, because those people are not yet at a progressed state of memory loss. And of course, we would like to prevent that. So that's number one. And so we're working with those with mild cognitive loss, who are still driving potentially, they're dating, they're going to karaoke, they're having so much fun. I'm very jealous of them most of the time. And they're just concerned about, they're seeing the first stages of memory loss, or they are having, certainly during this time, they've been in isolation, they're starting to notice changes. And so they volunteer to participate. They are self-referring, which is wonderful. And then we'll also work with the assisted living group, who are maybe experiencing a little bit more of a progression in the memory loss. And we're still providing, again, that support that they need, the stimulation, the really individualized care to improve the memory and the mental health. And then the memory care units, that's where we're working much more in a team setting where we want to include the staff to ensure that that person is receiving really specialized intervention all of the time. So we rely on the staff for carryover, but we can also do a lot of work one-on-one to rebuild the ability, basically to allow them that independence. A lot of times in memory care, those individuals are assumed to not have a lot of capacity because they may not have language, or they may just not have a lot of motivation. And once you kind of get in there and figure out what's going on with that person, you can bring out a whole level of skills if you allow them to actually do the things that they have the capacity to do. So
that's great.
that can be really.
And I think it's important to point out that I think a lot of people, they may think that you're only in facilities, right? But you're not just in facilities. You're going to adult daycare centers. You might even be going to senior centers where they might be home most of the day and they just come into the senior center for a couple hours to play mahjong with their friends. Is that right?
Absolutely. And even in the communities, if there's members of the outer community who living in a private home, they can come to the community to receive memory training. The communities like to have that connection with the people that live around them, and it's great marketing for them. So we can see them really in any setting where there's groups of seniors.
So you're everywhere from completely independent and just coming to play a game to all the way through a memory care unit in an assisted living facility, kind of the full spectrum. And
yes.
Everyone can benefit, whether it's mild memory loss or something more advanced. Can you talk a little bit more about how you assess these things, and then how do you customize plans depending on where they are on that spectrum?
Absolutely. So we always are going to start the process with an evaluation of memory and of cognitive function. So once we're able to do that, we can really tease out where it's going offline. You know, most people don't really understand the process of forming a memory. It actually is very skill-based. It's not that you have a good memory or you don't have a good memory. There's parts of memory that you might be good at and parts that might be slipping. So we've got to figure out, where is the deficit? So is it your ability to take in information? Is it your ability to pay attention? Is it your short-term memory that you can't recall things quickly? Is it your long-term memory? You can't retrieve things. So once we sort that out, then we can really base our goals on those deficits. And if it's, let's say, short-term memory where you're not able to recall things quickly, we're just going to practice. Hey, I'm going to say this, say it right back to me. Hey, I'm going to, tell you this story, tell it back to me after 10 seconds. And practice, practice, practice. I always say memory is just practicing.
Sure.
And you can improve.
And you're measuring their improvement, and you're seeing really practical and significant improvements in folks' memories after working with you.
Absolutely.
And how often are they working with you to see improvement?
It's typically twice a week for about an hour. And then every 3 months we retest, and then we measure the progress we've made with our goals. So it's extremely objective measures, and we can see if people are improving or if there's new deficits that we need to kind of target right away before it becomes an issue.
And Liz, so here's that softball question I was telling you about. So, we got a couple times a week for several months. This sounds really expensive. How much is this?
Well, this is what our tax dollars go towards. Medicare covers this 100%.
Wow.
Most private insurances now also cover our services. There's never a cost to our patients.
Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. There are all these resources out there that I'm willing to bet that you are Florida's best kept secret.
Probably.
Because I've been doing this for quite some time, and we had just met a couple weeks ago, and I love that this is available, and I love that we get to bring this to the people who are watching this show, and we can help spread the word. Because why wouldn't everyone take advantage of this? If you have Medicare, if you have a certain other private insurances covered as well, certainly for everyone on Medicare, why not take advantage of this?
I completely agree.
Yeah, and do you serve the entire state of Florida? What region are you in?
We do. We serve the entire state. And I think one of the things too that people get confused when they hear memory training is they confuse it for memory care, which is for those that are very advanced. And again, we are memory training for all,
Right.
Everyone who preventatively or proactively trying to address memory loss.
Sure.
But also, one of the big causal factors, as you were kind of mentioning previously, that anxiety and depression, it not only can be misunderstood as dementia, it also can cause dementia. So
Right.
we'll also really, especially as seniors are coming out of isolation and definitely experiencing high levels of anxiety and depression through this COVID pandemic, we also do psychotherapy and other types of interventions to address mental health. And I think that's very overlooked with the senior population.
Yeah, and because as I understand it, your employees or whoever's providing these therapies, they're either licensed clinical social workers or psychologists themselves. Is that correct?
Correct. All of our clinicians are licensed.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, this is terrific. I think that this is a sorely underutilized resources, and I hope that we can change that, because you're providing free memory training. You're helping improving people's lives, improving their ability to live independently. And what's more valuable than that? And you're doing it at a cost that is just right for everybody. So,
right.
Liz and Kim, I want to give you if you want to say anything else, I want to give you an opportunity to do so, but it's been great. And I just want to make sure that we sign off again. If you want to visit and speak with someone on Liz's staff, you can visit www.memorytrainingflorida.com. That's memorytrainingflorida.com. They're serving the entire state of Florida. Guys, either of you have anything you want to, any last parting words?
I would just say that we're very open to collaborating with the other resources, because we're often in these communities and seeing needs that we don't serve. Right. So we would love to learn about what the other folks watching this do, and please contact us just to share so that we can have a better network.
Terrific. Liz Bicknell, Kim Rocha, thank you very much for joining me today. It was great having you, and I'm thrilled to share this, and let's get more people, let's improve more memories. Thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah.